Donald Trump is panicking as talks with Iran before the ceasefire expires have fallen apart, frankly, before the talks even took place in Islamabad for a second round of discussions. Donald Trump continues a naval blockade of the Persian Gulf. Iran says it has no interest in negotiating with Donald Trump while a naval blockade remains in place by the United States, and while Donald Trump continues to lie about the terms of negotiation, and while Donald Trump and the Trump regime continues to threaten the Iranian regime and continues to threaten to blow up bridges, energy infrastructure, and other civilian infrastructure in Iran. Iran says they will not be negotiating from a position where they're constantly threatened by Donald Trump and where he contradicts his position each day. Meanwhile, Donald Trump was on CNBC earlier this morning where he said that he expects bombs to be dropping soon and he expects the ceasefire to end and war to resume. Donald Trump casually said that as he also attacked NATO and made a number of other deranged comments. Let me share with you what went down this morning. Now, a social media account that is closely linked with MB Ghalibaf, Iran's parliament leader, posted the following: as long as the naval blockade continues, negotiations with the United States will effectively remain stalled. America has so far assaulted 2 Iranian ships. With the end of the ceasefire deadline, the military response to the maritime blockade will begin. That ceasefire is set to expire very soon, and the Trump regime boarded another Iranian-backed ship this morning as well, while these purported negotiations were potentially going to take place. And again, Iran viewed the fact that the United States Navy boarded another Iranian-backed ship as an action that was not conducive to productive negotiations. Here's a strategic assessment from that same account, closely linked with Iran's lead negotiator, MB Ghalibaf. The ceasefire will end around 3 a.m. on Wednesday, Tehran time. The enemy's behavioral pattern indicates that the strike will be delivered before this hour. Iran will respond to any strike with an unlimited retaliation. The United States faces very serious operational constraints and knows that returning to war would not achieve its goals, but rather distance it further from them. For this reason, the United States is currently pressuring Pakistan to accept negotiations on behalf of Iran and extend the ceasefire deadline by 1 week. In Iran, there are no signs that a reasonable and sustainable agreement with the United States is attainable. Then from Iran's Tasman media, their state-run media, says the following: JD Vance has been on his way to Pakistan since 3 nights ago, but hasn't set off yet. Trump's ridiculous announcements and American media reports about this country's negotiating team show no sign of stopping. For example, do you remember that since 3 days ago, American media were saying Vance was on his way to Pakistan? They actually said that last Thursday there was going to be talks in Pakistan. We just wanted to let you know, the Iranian media is saying to its people, we just wanted to let you know that CNN, the American media outlet, has reported in its latest news that it's unclear when Vance, Trump's vice president, will depart from the United States. In other words, Vance, who's supposedly been en route to Islamabad, Pakistan for the past 3 days, according to these media reports, in order to negotiate with Iran, still hasn't even taken off yet. However, American media essentially doesn't even need to admit that they were constantly lying. They just say every few hours that an informed source claims so-and-so and is on the way. The fact that then why has he been on the way for all these hours and still not only hasn't arrived, but hasn't even taken off yet? Well, that must not detract one bit from their values. Meanwhile, Major General Abu Dali, the commander within the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, says, if the U.S. attacks again, we are ready to give a strong and final response to the enemy. Now, I don't want to hear Donald Trump's voice this morning. I don't know about you, but let me share with you what he said on CNBC this morning when he called in. And there's that sycophantic, bootlicking host on CNBC, Joe Kiernan, and he was the one who interviewed Donald Trump. It was gross. That's why I don't even want to hear their voices. But here's what was said. Donald Trump said in response to a question, you're saying you need at least the prospect for a signed deal today and tomorrow, or else you would resume bombing Iran? Trump responds, well, I expect there to be bombing. Donald Trump then said, I don't want to extend the ceasefire. I don't want to extend it at all. He then went on to say, we caught a ship yesterday that had some things on it that weren't very nice. A gift from China, perhaps? I don't know. I am surprised. I thought I had an understanding with President Xi Jinping. So what are you going to do about it, Donald? Are you going to cancel your trip to China in May? Are you going to stop selling semiconductors to China and charging a fee for it? What are you going to do, Donald? Donald Trump goes on to say, we totally won the war. I wish you could hear the conversations we're having with the Iranians. That's what they're telling us. They're telling us you totally won the war. I mean, Donald Trump is absolutely delusional, and these psychotic statements do not help at all. Donald, look, if you want to negotiate with Iran, behave like a grown-up and negotiate. If you don't want to negotiate and you want to risk the lives of hundreds of thousands of our service members who will likely get killed in a ground invasion in your unlawful and catastrophic war, if that's the route you're going to go, try to sell that to the American people, and then we think you should be locked up in the freaking Hague. But right now, what you're doing with your social media posts and all caps, Iran better do this, or calling in Joe Kiernan on CNBC, it's pathetic, it's weak. Iran realizes how weak it is. They realize that you're terrified and scared of war, but you want to talk a big game right now. So what are you going to do, Donald? What are you going to do? You think you're going to BS your way out of it? Then he goes on to say, I kid you not, this is a direct quote from Donald Trump. Quote, I would have won Vietnam very quickly. I would have made Vietnam look very easy. I would have won Vietnam very quickly. I would have done it much better than they did it. You dodged the draft. You claimed you had bone spurs in order to not be drafted in Vietnam. And now here you are in 2026, sacrificing America's post-World War II power abroad, engaging in all these unlawful and catastrophic wars, and you have the audacity to say you would have won the Vietnam War easily, a war that you dodged the draft 5 separate times for? I mean, isn't this the most pathetic, vile piece of trash that exists? Gutter trash is who he is. And I form that opinion after reading things like that. Vile trash. And that's why I didn't want to hear his voice say these things. If you want to go and hear it, you can watch the CNBC interview we posted on various social media. I don't want to hear him this morning because it's so damn freaking pathetic. Then Donald Trump says, I took over Venezuela in 45 minutes. I made it look easy. Everybody knows that the United States can flex its military muscle and take over a country like Venezuela. And if we wanted to, then work with their authoritarian regime to prop up more of these Chavistas. That's not a difficult concept. The issue is now you've destroyed an international world order where might makes right, and that's not what it should be. Just because you're more powerful, it doesn't mean you dominate and you destroy your neighbors, because then that sends the message to China. Oh, should we do that with Taiwan? It sends the message to Russia. Oh, I guess we can do what we're doing to our neighbors, right? That's why you create a stable international order, not say, oh, I could take over a country in 45 minutes. Look how powerful. Well, we know we have the most powerful military. Just because you're powerful doesn't mean you walk around and start punching people outside because you have big muscles. That's just not the way you're supposed to behave. And it makes you look weak and pathetic, actually, that you're out there bragging about it. And it creates a situation where World War III is more likely. Then Donald Trump's like, I have all the time in the world to make a great deal. I'm in no rush for anything. I have all the time in the world. Then you had Pete Hegseth posted a message today. And Pete Hegseth's big message today, can you guess what it is? Here's what Hegseth said. Let's play it.
Under President Trump, the War Department continues to take decisive action to once again restore freedom and strength to our joint force. We're seizing this moment to discard any absurd, overreaching mandates that only weaken our warfighting capabilities. In this case, this includes the universal flu vaccine and the mandate behind it. The notion that a flu vaccine must be mandatory for every service member everywhere in every circumstance at all times is just overly broad. And
back to more of these ridiculous comments from Donald Trump. Trump's like, our Middle East allies are much better than our NATO allies. Okay, just attacking NATO. Then Donald Trump is asked, is there some type of currency swap some type of bailout for the United Arab Emirates to help them? Are you going to try to bail out the UAE? Trump goes, it's under consideration. It's been a good country. So you know the way we bailed out Argentina? Now we're going to do bailouts of the United Arab Emirates. So while your health care is being ripped away, while you can't afford rent in a home, while you can't afford anything here in the United States, now we're doing bailouts of Dubai. We're doing bailouts of Abu Dhabi. We're doing bailouts of sultans and kings and in the Middle East. That's what we're doing right now under Donald Trump. So utterly pathetic. And then Joe Kiernan says the following to Donald Trump. And again, this is why I don't even want to listen to these people's voices. Here's what Kiernan says. I know, Donald, how much you respect and admire and are concerned with the Iranian people. This is in large degree one of the reasons you decided to embark on one of these things, because you care about them. By the way, this is one of the sociopathic, malignant, narcissistic views of authoritarians in general. It's what Putin says about Ukraine. I killed all of the Ukrainians because I love them. You remember the song from Hamilton? Just the way I say I love you is by sending my army to invade you. I love you. That's how I express it. That's the authoritarian. I'm killing them. I'm killing the little girls. I'm engaging in a genocide. I'm destroying them. That's how I share my love. It's sicko stuff. It's Hitler stuff. It's Mussolini stuff. It's historical authoritarian stuff. And that's what's going on CNBC freaking C. That's what you're sharing on CNBC? Are you kidding me? What the hell is this ridiculous propaganda on CNBC? It is horrific. A business network nonetheless. Why? Market manipulation is what's going down. Market manipulation. Let's hear from what the Pakistan information minister has said. Formal response from Iranian side about confirmation of delegation to attend Islamabad peace talks is still awaited. Ceasefire ends 4:50 a.m. Pacific time. That's Tehran, PST, April 22nd. Decision from Iran to attend the talks before the end of the 2-week ceasefire is critical. Why would Iran want to show up when Donald Trump's engaged in that behavior? While he has a naval blockade and while he's attacking Iranian ships during a ceasefire negotiation, and while Trump threatens to obliterate their civilization, the escalation approach by Donald Trump, where he's not actually going to back it up by a ground invasion, which Iran, it's not helping anything. It's just making negotiations more difficult. Earlier this morning, I shared with you the reporting from CNN, which has all this leaked information from our generals and admirals who are out there basically saying Trump is making it impossible to actually make any deal with Iran or to do anything because he's too scared of ground invasion and committing forces. And he doesn't want to be able to actually give anything in a negotiation. So he runs around contradicting himself, ranting and raving like a lunatic, and it's not helping anybody at all. But meanwhile, Lloyd's List did a report where they claim that 28 shadow tankers belonging to Iran, both cargo ships and ships containing crude, have been able to leave already and evade the blockade. The Trump regime claims that they were able to stop about 28 ships using the blockade. And again, there's a murky information environment to say the least. But one of the things that we saw from tankertrackers.com, a national Iranian VLCC supertanker departed Iran in late March 2026, swam on over to this archipelago where she transferred her 2 million barrels of crude oil. She then returned home via the blockade line, and she'll reach Karg Island tomorrow. As Iranian's Fars news agency says, another Iranian tanker breaches the U.S. siege. A super tanker owned by National Iranian Tanker Company departed in March 2026 and got past the blockade. And there was more information about this morning of additional ships getting through the blockade as well. And then you have Donald Trump making posts like this. Here's Donald Trump's post right now. Iran has violated the ceasefire numerous times. Never allow the traitor Democrats like low IQ person Hakeem Jeffries. And that's what Donald Trump refers to black people as. His insult for black people is always low IQ, whoever the black person he's attacking, because Trump's a racist. That's why. Or the totally corrupt fake news media, such as the phony and decaying Wall Street Journal and the failing New York Times, or dying 60 Minutes to demean Operation Midnight Hammer. where you claimed you obliterated all of Iran's nuclear weapons, but now you're saying they have nuclear weapons and nuclear material. Okay, Donald. And then Donald Trump makes another post this morning. I've always been a big fan of Tim Cook. And likewise, Steve Jobs. When I got a call from Tim Cook, I said, wow, it's Tim Apple Cook calling. How big is that? I was very impressed with myself to have the head of Apple calling to kiss my ass. That's what you're posting right now, of all things, with everything going on. That's what you're posting. Also, Pope Leo XIV made the following post. He ain't holding back, Pope Leo XIV. Here's what he goes. Without a change of direction in the assumption of political responsibility and without respect for institutions and international agreements, humanity's destiny risks being tragically compromised. God does not want this. His holy name must not be profaned by the desire for domination, arrogance, or discrimination. Above all, it must never be invoked to justify death-dealing choices and actions. Powerful words there by Pope Leo XIV, who, as I mentioned before, is not holding back at all. Iran's broadcasting network says no Iranian diplomatic delegation, be it primary or secondary team, or initial or follow-up mission, has traveled to Islamabad, Pakistan so far. And then we're hearing as well, Iran official denies any delegation has arrived in Pakistan for negotiations with the U.S., calling reports of each talks baseless and fabricated. Then they claim the U.S. delegation has arrived in Pakistan. JD Vance ain't there. What are we talking about? Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.